Yeah, that's right. Bill O'Reilly is on now. Yeah. And I have a few words for Bill O'Reilly. In the no spin zone here. Now, there's the one thing that Bill O'Reilly knows, and that is history. He doesn't know the progressive era very well. Most people who went to Harvard don't. They kind of bury that part of it. But he knows history real well. He was a history professor or teacher for a while. It didn't work out for him. He had to go do something else. I don't know what he went on to do. But Bill O'Reilly has written a new book called Killing Lincoln, the shocking assassination that changed America forever. Now, I have two ways of going here. I could tell you that I read, not all of it, I haven't finished it yet, but most of it, and it is really well written. And it's a history book that you will like because it's actually in story form. It's not like, in 1861, then the young... No, it's actually written in a way that is not just dates, names, and places, but in story form, and it's really engaging. Or I could say, hello, Bill, I read your book. I read part of it. I read the part that said Killing Lincoln. And then the next page, I thought it was a little repetitive. It said Killing Lincoln by Bill O'Reilly. And I hope that you can explain, because then there's something about for Makeda, whatever. And then the next page says Killing Lincoln again. And you lost me because I'm like, I got it. You're Killing Lincoln. Tonight, I'm going to start reading A Note to Readers, which sounds fascinating, and then something you like to call prologue.
Yeah, well, a guy like you, it takes about 3 days to get through the 4 vanity pages of the book.
Yeah, well,
get the audio back. Get the audio. Then I'll be yelling at you.
No. You actually read the thing?
What do you mean I read it?
No, I mean you read it out loud.
I did. All 278 pages of it.
Oof. Wow, that had to be tough work.
Don't you read your books?
Yeah, I really like reading my books. I don't have time anymore, but I have a job. In this economy, I have 4 jobs, Bill. I'm not like you. I'm not
to give your listeners the audio version of what you write. You don't have time.
No, here's the deal. I'd like to, but I'm not a rich fat cat like you who keeps asking the president for higher taxes. Because that's what all you rich people seem to be doing.
If you're not a rich fat cat, then rich fat cats don't exist.
All right. Bill, let me tell you. First of all, I did read the book. I haven't finished it yet, but it is really exceptionally well written.
Thank you.
And really fascinating. You are really good at the history of Lincoln. Again, like I said, progressives not so much, but this is really good. You start. Just a few days before Lincoln is assassinated. In just a couple of pages, I learned stuff about John Wilkes Booth that I didn't know.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff about both Lincoln and Booth that I didn't know. And I'm a history, as you mentioned, former history teacher. So we researched this thing right down to what Abraham Lincoln did when he got up in the morning. I wanted to write a really personal... I'm basically writing this for America's kids. I want the kids to read it. By kids, I mean 12 to 28.
Right.
Because they don't know anything about our history. They don't know what a good leader is. And I believe that Abraham Lincoln was the best president, the gold standard of leadership for this country, and that today we desperately need somebody to bring us back. And we have to be looking for people not who are as good as Lincoln, but who approach that.
Or at least striving to be.
At least
striving to be.
Put their country above themselves, which is the key to what Abraham Lincoln did.
I'm going to let you pass on the Abraham Lincoln is the gold standard. It was clearly George Washington, and George Washington could take Abraham Lincoln in any fight that you could possibly...
I'm not going to mock you for your view there, because there are two sides. But the reason that I say that Lincoln is the gold standard, I would put Washington second, okay?
Whoa.
Is because what Lincoln had to deal with was absolute breakdown of the Union.
Oh, you're so right. George Washington just had to go fight a war with no shoes.
Yeah, he wasn't president then.
Yeah.
When Washington got to be president, all right, the country was calm and he was coronated. Some wanted him to be king. He didn't have to deal with what Lincoln had to deal with from the jump, which is an abysmal situation brought to him by the infamous James Buchanan.
Otherwise known as, for anybody who's listening in contemporary terms, James Buchanan translates into modern English as George W. Bush. Lincoln inherited those problems from George W. Bush.
Well, I wouldn't ever put President Bush in the category of Buchanan, who I believe was the worst.
No, I meant really. I'm talking about the new kind of. It's like new math. It's the new history.
Yeah,
all problems were caused by the actual George W. Bush.
Look, Lincoln had three daunting tasks in front of him, and as you mentioned, we only take the last 2 months of his life, the last few days we really zero in on, because everything was happening. Civil War was ending, the bloodiest battle ever seen on American soil was being fought at Sailor's Creek in Virginia. It was just an amazing time. There was this big conspiracy to not only kill Lincoln, but to bring down the whole federal government so the South would rise again. And there's Abe in the middle of it, everyone hating him. He was the most hated man in America. The South hated him. Many in the North hated him. The guy was under siege from every side, but he prevailed. But the three things that he wanted to do was, number one, win the Civil War and keep the Union together. Number two, get rid of slavery. That was huge for Lincoln. And number three, after the war was over, because he knew he was going to win at that time, at the end of the last 2 months, he knew he was going to win. Grant was chasing Lee. Lee had one chance to get away, and Grant was closing in. And Lincoln himself wasn't in Washington. He was on the gunboats watching these battles. But anyway, those were the three, that after the war was over, that Lincoln would not punish the South but bring it in. Now, all three of those things took a tremendous toll physically on the man. The man was a robust, almost weightlifter Arnold Schwarzenegger type when he got into the office, over 6 foot, strapping man. When he left, he's bent over and had aged 30 years. And that was in a period of 4 years.
And the wart got worse, but that's a different story. Let me ask you this. I didn't know that James Buchanan, I mean, just the idea that the vice president, during the second inaugural speech, the vice president, you like that with Pat?
Sadly,
the vice president comes out and gives a drunken...
He was loaded, Andrew Johnson.
That's amazing.
Andrew Johnson was loaded when he gave the vice president, when he gave his speech.
And he came down on the South and ripped them apart.
Right. He was from Tennessee, Johnson, and he wanted Lincoln to go in and scorched earth. He wanted him to kill and hang all the Confederate leaders, all their generals, and Lincoln said, I'm not doing that. We'll never get this Union back together if I do that. And that was another reason that people hated Lincoln. They wanted revenge because so many Americans were killed.
That is, you know, what is amazing? I read that part and I thought, this is the choice that we have in front of us again. Here is this drunken sot getting up, the vice president, and he says, rip them apart, take them apart. And Lincoln comes up, and his second inaugural address is the exact opposite, with malice towards none. He says, we're going to put it all back together, and we're all brothers in this. A totally different choice. When he's walking up to give his address, explain what happens. Another piece of lost history that I find fascinating. Explain what happens when Lincoln is walking up.
Well, he didn't want to give the address when the people were demanding it. They were chanting and they were screaming, and he finally had to give it, and Booth was in the audience, John Wilkes Booth. Is this what you're referring to?
Yeah. I'm going to ask the guys if they knew it. If they knew
Booth
this.
was stalking Lincoln. Booth was a racist, a narcissist, only 26 years old, but very famous actor. And he hated Lincoln, and he wanted to kill Lincoln, and he wanted to kill the Secretary of State, the Vice President, and kill them all. And he felt if he could kill them all with his guys, that the South would then rise again after they surrendered and attack.
An actor.
Right. And so Booth is there listening to Lincoln and close to him. And at one point in the speech, Booth lunges toward Lincoln, and a marshal, Washington marshal, stops Booth and looks at him and recognizes him and doesn't arrest him because he said, an actor like that, he would never try to hurt the president.
And it would have been bad for the police had they arrested somebody as famous as Booth.
And Booth said, I just stumbled. When he was so angry he couldn't contain himself. One of the pearls in the book that Marty Dugard, my co-author and the historian, found, and this is great. is that John Wilkes Booth was engaged to a woman named Lucy Hale, who was the daughter of a New Hampshire senator who was very anti-slavery. Anyway, while she was contemplating marrying Booth, she was going out on the side with Robert Todd Lincoln, Abraham's son, a Union officer. We believe that Booth found out about that, and that enraged him further. I mean, these are the kinds of details that we uncover.
I'm telling you, if you want to learn about Abraham Lincoln, this is a tremendous, tremendous book. Because of that, he tells you stuff in it that you've never heard before. It makes the story fascinating. It is not just a dry history book. It is truly fantastic. Truly, truly fantastic. Bill, great job.
I appreciate that very much. So we're going to be on GBTV next week, right?
Well, I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure.
Well, if you can deem,
I might squeeze you in. I don't know. I only have a 2-hour broadcast now, and it's me.
Right.
And
there's no guess, but
I don't have any guess, but I might make room for you. However, I've read recently how much you hate everybody on the staff over at Fox, and I want you to know that Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck on GBTV sounds good, but Sean Hannity's thinking about it.
Well, I think you can get as many, but in the same article you're referring to is that I fear you.
I know that, and that's what gave that article such credibility.
Yes.
When I read that,
that's when they had me.
Exactly
I thought,
right.
Wow,
this is a lie. This is all a lie. And then I read he fears Glenn Beck, and I thought,
you knew.
That's true. That came right from Bill. Right from Bill.
All right, Beck, I'm glad you read the part of the book, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm going to read the contents tonight.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be, if I can get through the prologue, I'll read the contents. It's fascinating, though, the way you've written Chapter 1. It's fascinating. Bill O'Reilly, thank you very much. We'll talk again soon, my friend. Bill O'Reilly, the name of the book is Killing Lincoln, The Shocking Assassination That Changed America Forever. A great, great book by Bill O'Reilly.
So the case is essentially that partially this assassination happened because basically of love triangle jealous type of crime.
Yeah, with Abraham Lincoln's son.
Can you get Bill back on?
I don't know if we can get him back on. You just hung up on him, so I don't know. I can try.
I'll hang up on him again, too, if he acts like that. He's afraid of me. Call him back up because I want to ask him if you had to classify John Wilkes Booth. I mean, I understand he was an actor, and so if you had to classify him, where would you put him on a political spectrum? Because he's clearly not conservative. He's clearly not a God-fearing Christian. He's sleeping around. He's a bad dude. I mean, obviously. He assassinated Abraham Lincoln, but he's a really bad dude. How would you classify him?
I love that too because they always try to paint, slavery. Well, people, the left would try to say, "Oh, that's conservative." Think about what the ultimate government policy that is. I mean, it's government control of an entire race. It's the ultimate big government policy.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I gotta believe anybody.
And that's what the South was doing,
right?
In their own constitution, and he's for it. But there's other things going on. There's love interests going on. There's jealousy. There's rage. There's anger. I mean, he's a dark dude. This isn't some GOP member. Oh, that's right, because Lincoln was a Republican. Yeah. Name of the book is Killing Lincoln. I almost said Bill O'Reilly because it's so big on the front of the book that you're like, geez, man, what an egomaniac. He's out of control. Who does that? Who puts their name and everything else on everything? Join me tonight on GBTV.com. Here.